So Macy J is one of Siege's biggest and most recognizable YouTubers, but he also has been getting himself into a lot of controversy recently. One of the controversies he ends up getting himself into is his repeated complaints about Siege's TDM meta. Right here he tweets that Siege would be so much better if running and gunning was less viable. TDM is not Siege, forever dying on this hill. The clip is a quoted tweet of Rexon, a pro player, just dogging on people in ranked. And obviously, you know, in a game about shooting, a lot of people ended up not agreeing with Macy J's opinion. With a lot of the other creators in the space making fun of this tweet, saying Siege would be so much better with a stamina bar for leaning. Quick peeking just ruins the game. Atheno saying Siege would be a lot better if we removed weapons. Too much violence. We should replace eliminations with hugs and pillow fights. And the Godly Noob saying Siege would be so much better if they remove the ability to shoot. Just force people to use utility and play tactically. Now, poking at fun at Macy J is cool and all because, you know, he's old and he wants to keep Siege the old way. But looking back on the E3 trailer of the game, it was really meant, at least for people who got in the game before, to seem like this really tactical, really utility-based games where you coordinate with your teammates, you use util, and you move slowly with, like, as a counterterrorism unit to break down the game. But with so much opinions floating around, is there a TDM meta? Is it ruining the game, and what can we do about it? And is Macy J actually correct? In order to answer these questions, I like to first start by going over the old metas in Siege to show you where the game was at before now, where people are complaining about a TDM meta. One of the first horrible metas to grace the game was something called Lion meta. Essentially, Lion was an operator before the version he is today. Like when he called this Lion skin, if you moved, people gained perfect wall hacks on you, like you saw just there. Ying at the time was absolutely broken, so you would just run Ying. Glass could, by the way, move and see through smoke, so you would run Ying, Glaz, Lion, and just rush every single round. And it was horrible, and Lion had about like 100% pick in Pro League, right? Every single pro team was playing it because there was no operator bans at the time. Every single round had Lion. You had to play red light, green light when it was, you know, active. And other than that, Glaz was entering every single doorway because, you know, he could move and see through smokes, and you would be permanent blind because Ying's in your face. This was one of the first really, really horrible metas in Siege that we like to see. Almost like a TDM meta before today's current TDM meta. So, you know, maybe before it was worse, right? Like, it starts to raise the question, did before this game really have it worse? We actually see a slowing down of the game during the utility meta. So I'm sure you guys have seen this clip of this flashbang dump onto yellow stairs. Following the Lion meta, Lion immediately got nerfed, and then a lot of utility operators got added to the game. And as you can see here, it's Jaeger playing a power spot where he has double burn with Wamai and Jaeger that are supposed to catch grenades and Wamais. The enemy team, it's so commonplace to go against such a stacked utility position with double burn catching. The enemy team just stacks up on flashbangs and grenades to fully clear out this person. So this would be an example of a meta that most likely Macy J would be preferring, right? A utility clear meta. So back in the day, this was before Jaeger only burned one flashbang or piece of utility every charge. He had 2 burns, and then Wamai also got released, which is another operator that could catch grenades, catch disc, and every cafe round was identically play out like this. You would always bring multiple sets of flashbangs, Zophias, and breaching just to make sure you could break this one singular shield on this one corner. Look how much util they dump onto it just because they've stacked Jaegers and Wamais on that one singular shield, and it's still up almost 30 seconds later, and that's just burned like a minute of a round. And this was the normal at the time. I got into playing competitive around that time, and this was like the bare minimum at the time. Every single round you had to burn and break the crap out of one shield. It didn't help that at the same time they also released an operator called Goyo that had a deployable shield like as a fire canister, right? So if you don't remember, right now Goyo has like these little canisters that you pop them and they release fire, but before, those canisters when you place them down would exist as a shield, right? This guy has a shield right here, protected by an ADS, protected by a Wamai disc, protected by another ADS, right? And he would have 3 of those. So imagine every single round you're going against Goyo shields, Maestro bubbles, multiple pieces of utility, all protected by Jaegers and Wamais, and every single round you have to properly play to burn this utility no matter what for a minimum minute to minute 30 of the round every single time. And what this utility meta led to was something called the 20-second meta. Essentially, back when SSG won the 6th Invitational 2020, the biggest tournament in Siege, every single round came down to the last 20 seconds, because as right here you can see, before this 5v3 happened, it's 5v5, all up on the board, no opening picks, and there's still 20 seconds left on the board on the winning round for them to win the world championship. There's 5 people up on both teams at 20 seconds left. This was a standard in Pro League back in the time because there was so much utility across every part of the map that you would spend all this time just even getting the map control you needed to go to your execute, and then you would always finish the round or even start fighting people in the last 20 seconds of the round. This was the meta that immediately followed that Lion Scan Ging Glass Rush meta at the time, and was essentially extremely slow, extremely lethargic. SSG were known for being a very, very slow team, but it dominated at the time, and this would be the example of likely, at least in Pro League, the closest thing to what Macy J would prefer in terms of a meta. Now, immediately following this meta, Ubisoft nerfed the utility of the burn operators mentioned before, and this led to certain guns becoming very, very relevant. Namely speaking, what you're watching right now, the LMG. LMG on Zofia and Finka was so devastatingly broken that they had 150 bullets and 100 bullets respectively in their mags, and they could just mow down people, hold down mouse 1, and just never cease to fight people at this time. At the same time, the 1.5 scope was released, which, as we know now, is the most powerful scope in the game. Anyone with that scope was broken, and that led to a much more aggressive gunfight dominating meta with the LMG on the board. Right, you have people just taking these ones with the LMG, just walking around, fighting, which, in my opinion, is also much more of a TDM meta than today's game. So with all these meta in mind, is today really the worst version of a TDM meta? Because we've seen a horrible, gruelingly slow utility dump meta, but also 2 really devastatingly bad TDM metas that happened at the time. Not to mention, during the LMG meta, people would run 4 sets of nades each because you could cook grenades at the time, right? So if you could run 4 sets of grenades, you could just go underneath people and just randomly nade the floor. Really common in Pro League, and just get picks you wanted. No, but here's one of the biggest things, right? And this is something I noticed when I was watching the 6th Invitational with Macy J and King George. You can see we're over here. I realized that there actually is a very big gap between the pro meta and the ranked meta. Obviously, the pro meta is very starkly defined by what's viable and not, but I realized that maybe what all the examples earlier that we talked about, that I'm like, okay, maybe there isn't as bad of a TDM meta, isn't actually a valid argument against Macy J is saying, because pro play plays so much more different than ranked. Right now, I'm going to watch this clip. You're going to watch with me. I watch it with Macy J, King George, and you guys are going to give me your thoughts immediately on what happened from a ranked point of view, and then I'll give you the pro point of view of this clip. Let's watch.
What the frick? What the fuck? Thermite just been looking around, letting no one. 1v1. 5 seconds left. Oh shit! He doesn't put the bomb. He takes us all the way over here.
Just having to make a choice here, Handy. Let's see.
The composure!
What are you doing?
Wow! He thought he was. Wow! Just.
Now, as you can see from King George's reactions, from a ranked point of view, and also I think Macy J shared the same sentiment right after, this seemed like a blatant throw. What is that guy doing? He doesn't even know what he's doing. Oh my god, why is he running? That's like a ranked-esque throw. But let's go ahead and watch the clip back right here. No doubt that Uzus, or who was last alive? No doubt that Uzus made a very big blunder when he peaked this play, right? Absolutely no doubt he did that. right? It ended up probably losing the momentum to win the game. But if you rewind the clip a little bit, right? Handy's in the 1v1, he kills Shaiko, and starting at 9 seconds left, right? It takes 7 seconds to plant a bomb. BDS loses all eyes on the Blitz, right? So, assuming that Handy went to grab the bomb perfectly, he would have grabbed it at 7 seconds. Right? Like at about 7 seconds, he kills Shaiko. If he ran to the bomb right now, right, he would have reached the bomb at 7 seconds and immediately started planting close to the other B bomb site, not this A bomb site in front of us. He would have gone right. Instead of looking at this doorway, he would have gone to the bomb site he just killed Shaiko in and planted behind the box in utter safety, right? This position right here. He would have probably planted behind this box, starting at around 6 to 7 seconds. Remember, it takes 7 seconds to plant the bomb, right? So counting down from 6 seconds, right? 7 seconds to plant the bomb, that is when the defender has the absolute advantage. Usually, you want to sprint as a defender the moment you hear the bomb go down because you know they're sticking and it goes into past the 0 second mark to where they get off, they lose. In this case, assuming Handy made the objectively best winning play he possibly could, Yuzis did not make any sort of mistake. Yuzis wanted to make it so that he could at least close the gap to the safe plant spot a little bit closer before Handy could get comfortable and play long range versus a shield, because against a shield, what do you want to do? You want to get close and melee them and then shoot them, right? That's what you want to do against a shield. Handy won the round because he took the biggest gamble ever. He said, if I stick this bomb, Yuzis is going to be able to take advantage of the position I am while I stick the bomb. I am going to sit here and play to lose the round, but on the off chance that Yuzis even slightly sprints a bit too early, which is exactly what he did, he hit the craziest gamble in the entire world and gets the round win. And that is kind of like a difference between a pro understanding and a ranked understanding of the game. It plays like two different worlds. Pulling up another very old TDM meta complaint tweet that Macy J once made. It was actually on my old teammate Gavin. He said, once your mechanical skills reach a certain threshold, you don't need to rely on strategy anymore. The higher the rank, the less tactical it gets. Not hating on Gav, he's great, just critiquing the game. And once we watch this Gavin clip here, I mean, as you can see, he is a pro player, right? So obviously, he doesn't need to play tactically like he does against other pros. He could just run around and just fry everyone because he's simply that cracked of a player, right? The enemy's not even calling out to each other. That Montaigne did not know that Gavin was behind him. And I think Pengu's quote tweet of Macy J sums it up best. Clips like these are so hard to judge because when the enemy is just terrible, when is the game breaking in terms of mechanics. Siege has tools to be utility based, but the movement gunplay to be mechanics based. It's such a divide. I think that's such a beautiful summary of like what it is, right? Siege is such a beautiful game that can play like the most satisfying gunplay game, but also to be a genius utility gameplay game. Because at least at a pro level right now, we are seeing one of the most diverse metas of all times. You can play super fast by stacking Blackbeard, Blitz, and Montaigne, just taking enough control you want, but then defense can counter that with traps and smokes and Fenris and Oryx, and then you have to switch your, but then they don't have util anymore, so the enemy can bring util. And speaking of util, there's still lots of utility dumb strats that are still being seen. Brett made fun of the tweet saying Siege would be so much more better if running and gunning was more viable. Forever dying as a hill as like a response to the tweet. So right here we have a player on bleed playing inside the elevator position. They have a reinforced hatch to make sure that no one can come up his hatch with a Maru, or no one can just go under and floor bang him. But what happens is SSG brings the Hibana underneath and hard breaches it to have a Capital fire through this hole and get him cleared out of this angle, which they are holding him from the cut on the reinforced wallet from him, right? Usually he would be completely fine, but because he got breached and fired from underneath the hatch, from the genius call by SSG in the round, in the moment, he's held from a cut on the elevator windows over here in the lobby, and he's absolutely cleared out brilliantly. This is a strategical siege that Macy J would probably love. Speaking of more recent clears, if you watch my recent video on Clubhouse Garage on this game, then you'll know that Garage has become an absolute utility dump death trap. I mean, look at this. Foxy's playing top garage, he's playing Doc, and he's playing Doc so that he can heal himself through the fires, but it doesn't matter because he just got nomaded, fired, grenaded, nomaded, fired, grenaded like 400 million times. Going back to my own YouTube video, this was one of the clears that Furia used against FaZe. They rolled the Yin Candelas up the staircase while another person nomad charges them into the open line of sight from the breach. After that, we have this clear coming out of Shopify Rebellion where they smoke off the garage door with the glass. They don't even have to get underneath with garage. So the glass yellow pings where the two hiding spots on rafters are, and then they capital fire, right? They fire off these two hiding spots, and then the person has to run and gets exposed to either the glass or the breach player on the board. So in my opinion, Siege is still one of the most, diverse metas it can possibly be in. The most common strat on Bank Basement is going to be this utility plant denial stack where you have 3 Goyos all planting to deny the singular plant, forcing execute, and then you have so much plant denial, echoes, smokes, and you all line it up for this one spot, this one plant, this one execute, and usually 90% of rounds play into that single plant. And then the enemy team, which is Stompin's team, this is tier 2 by the way, this is even pro play, like this is tier 2, this is semi-pro Siege, not even fully pro Siege. The enemy team, because there's so much lines of sight that you could throw these smoke grenades to that you see BJL trying to play on, they bring the sense gadget, right? They bring the sense such that it blocks off all the line of sight for the enemy and they come through, right? So it's like a very tactical execute based situation, right? So at least within pro play so far, it's a very diverse meta, it's very strategical, it's very util heavy rounds, and in my opinion is nowhere near a TDM meta. Obviously there's rounds that play very fast and have to do with cheese, but that's interlaced with very slow, very execute forced rounds, and it's very diverse. And I think we're in a pretty good spot right now, maybe besides Siege being, or besides Shields being a bit powerful. But that leads us to the big question. What then is the problem in ranked? Why is there such a big TDM problem in ranked? And my first answer to that is rank 2.0. Now, what is rank 2.0 for the newer players that are not that familiar? Well, usually in a game, the way the rank system works is that you have like ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, and then as you win and progress, your skill level is determined by your elo, which is marked by each rank you're at. And therefore, your skill level is often reflected very well by the rank you're at. Saying you're a gold player obviously holds a lot of difference other than being a diamond player. Right, that is kind of how ranks in games usually goes and why you play the game in general to play ranked. The problem with Siege is that they introduced a system where they introduced a separate skill level hidden MMR, and then you're showing rank point system so much that I feel like rank doesn't even matter anymore, and I'm explaining why. For those of you who are new, probably won't understand how this works. So the way the past rank system was a pure skill system where there's only one value MMR used for skill and ranked. Any change we needed to make a rank system was affecting skill and thus the matchmaking. We are splitting what was previously known into MMR as skill and rank. So your skill is separate from your ranked. Your MMR will be a hidden value used for matchmaking. Your skill represents your ability to win a game. But your rank, however, is just a progression through the competitive ladder. Essentially what happens is even if I am the top rank of the game last season, every single season I have to start back at the lowest rank copper. If I'm champion last season, I start at copper every single season, but every win counts more towards me starting from copper because I have a hidden MMR of champion, and thus I play from copper to champion at a much faster pace with less wins than it takes a person who was silver and then also wanted to get the champion. Now, the reason they did this was to encourage more people to play the game, right? You have more reason to grind the game. There's more games happening because it doesn't take like 2 placement matches and a couple games to get all the way to champion. You want to play all the way through back up again. The problem this makes is that ranked your rank no longer kind of matters, right? Your display rank no longer reflects your skill. From a popular player called Masamitsu tweeted out, new Phantom player matchmaking sure is working. By the way, they added another system in to make sure matchmaking was a lot more smoothly, because obviously if rank doesn't matter anymore, matchmaking is going to be absolutely disgusting, which we see a lot of time. A big complaint that a lot of Siege players have is that matchmaking is horrible. Right here we see 4 of the top 20 players on console going against 3 coppers, a gold, and a platinum. Right? Like, that is not normal at all for any sort of ranked skill-based matchmaking system. That is actually abhorrent, and these players are horrible coppers as well. I mean, they have 0.17 KDs, 0.55 KDs. These guys are terrible, terrible players, but they're getting put against the top 20 players on console because of the lack of meaning that the display rank now has to do with the matchmaking system and the inconsistencies that the hidden MMR brings. Yeah, I'm sure this is just another example that was posted on Twitter. All I had to search up was R6 Siege matchmaking, and I just get dozens and dozens of screenshots like this, right? Coppers, golds versus plats, and a diamond. So it's pretty bad. Not to mention, they introduced crossplay into the game, so now console players can now queue into PC lobbies should they so desires, or should they want to play with their PC friends, which honestly, no hate to console players. I think at the highest level, like, Siege is not enough of an aim game to where console can actually like outcompete mouse and keyboard players. I think in a lot of scenarios, besides maybe shooting a C4 out of midair, right? Like maybe besides that, I think like console, it doesn't really matter. You can outfrag a PC player no problem, because I think Siege is a very much position, and it's very much positioning based game, right? If you have someone, like, side topic, if you have like a god angle on someone, it doesn't matter how good your aim is, you're gonna just fry them every single time, right? It's about getting angles. But regardless of that, still at a lower level, you have a lot of these console players, right, that are mixed in, that are on controller, that maybe are just getting into the game, versus like cracked MNK kids that can have all the articulation in the world, right? That's the biggest argument. So thumbs versus arms and fucking finger articulation. So you have that introduction, and then a bunch of like matchmaking errors that don't matter, and all of a sudden you have a lot of low-level players versus randomly going against high-level players at random. And I think that is the biggest thing that is contributing to this TDM meta problem. Is like, obviously when you have, a very uneven matchmaking system, at least where players in this lobby, even if each team has 4 coppers, and then 1 champion on each team, right? Is that champion player gonna play tactical and slow on either team, even though the teams are technically balanced? No, those champion players are going to fucking run around and just play team deathmatch, play target practice, play aim labs, play aim training in these lobbies, because it really just doesn't matter at that point, right? Why bother going through getting a wall open practically and properly as a Siege game should go, as a Pro League game would go, when you could just walk in and fry everyone? There's not a point, right? So to me, that is one of the biggest and most obvious reasons for there being a TDM meta. Because I promise you, in the games in ranked that we, like, let's say me and a stack of pros, if I'm playing with my pro buddies, we go against like a full, like, other pro stack team, we're not all rushing every single round, because it's not going to work at all. The other team is going to be able to read into that, counter that, and make sure we get absolutely stopped in their tracks with, operative selection of trap operators or whatever, just making sure it's not possible whatsoever. So definitely rank 2.0, I think, is the biggest reason. The second reason is a natural progression of a game's skill level. This is Macy J's oldest, most viewed video. This was posted 8 years ago. It's the second most viewed video. I just want you guys to watch and observe the skill level of these players.
Oh my god, it's right in the butt.
He tried to get back in.
Like, watch this, by the way. Watch this. Hold on.
You're the hostage.
Continue to watch this video. Continue to watch the video. This is a second click. He's on Cav. Enemy team has secured a hostage, which was in rank by the boy. And I'm sure this is like near the top rank of the game.
I don't want to kill the hostage.
Just do it.
10 seconds to go.
Hell no.
Behind.
Op 4 no longer has the hostage. One friendly remaining. 5 seconds left.
GG.
I think there would be a lot of different outcomes if that was today, right? I think people are a lot better at pressing on Montaigne or no to turn around and take a gunfight on someone. I think that obviously the skill level of the game was ridiculously low before then. I think we can all agree on that. Like the first year one pro league players were farming on plumbers, right? Even Bolo said like back then the skill level of the game was so incredibly low. Even Bolo coming in and just being slightly flicky leaning changed the landscape of the game, and everyone thought he was cheating just because he had slightly flicky, slightly impressive aim. I'm not even like, by today's standards, everyone looks like a Bolo, right? But before, Bolo, just by being flicky just a little bit, people were like, oh my god, this guy's cheating, there's no way he's that confident and fast, right? What I'm trying to say is, obviously, in an FPS game where people naturally get better at shooting other people and aiming at other people, the limits of what you can be aggressive with are going to increase, and the meta of the game is going to get faster and more aggressive because people are pushing the limits of the game. One of the best examples I have for this is the insect kick in League of Legends, right? So in League of Legends, there's a character called Lee Sin that can kick people across the map, right? The first time this mechanic happened was right here, on a very old version of the game. It does not look like League of Legends whatsoever. What happens is this guy named Insect dashes onto the enemy, hops behind the enemy, and kicks the guy back into his team. And the crowd goes wild, because no one has ever done that. That was the most impressive thing in the entire world about 10 years ago. About more than 10 years ago, like 12 years ago. Nowadays, it is the most common mechanic in the world. In fact, if you want to be a Lee Sin player at any level of the game, if you want to be a gold Lee Sin player, you better be able to do this shit, right? Now, like, if you are playing in gold and you play Lee Sin and you cannot pull off this mechanic in League of Legends, people will fucking call you all sorts of names, get out the game, why are you even playing this guy? Like, it is the most common, most downwash mechanic of the all time. Well, because the game progressed. People got better at the game to the point where it no longer became the fucking peak of skill in League of Legends, but rather the floor, right? Rather the bare minimum. And we saw that reflected in Pro League after SSG won their 20-second meta. And I know a lot of these clips are going to be last 20 seconds because I just put up a random video, but the meta sped up. Brazil started dominating Siege because they were known as the most aggressive region. TSM and Bolo took over fucking NA because they were willing to take risks and let their hard support die and not open any walls, but still be able to flood through and absolutely crank people, having really skilled gun marksmen like Bolo and whatnot. Like, here's an example of a Brazilian player, just, you know, absolutely like a game between Shaiko and a Brazilian player where Maya.Los, you know, absolutely just going nuclear on the mirror right here. Because he's able to do that. He's not, you know, waiting for his teammate. He's not coordinating. He's just like going left and right because he's able to do that, right? As people naturally get better at an FPS game, you're able to be more aggressive because you're able to take more space more fast. You're willing to take the harder gunfights in the game. My last reason and problem is the lack of team play and coordination enabled by all these elements within the game right now as a byproduct of a couple of changes to, you know, both rank 2.0, but also a couple things added to the game. First of all, barely anyone actually properly uses their microphone in ranked anymore, right? I think we all have that common experience in a game as tactical and coordinating as Siege, which is so incredibly vital, and it's probably because of couple reasons, right? One, the introduction of the yellow ping, right? A couple while back, you could only scan people and let them know they're marked. Now you can Z ping. You can just click a button on off a camera, ping on where they are. Now, I don't think this is a bad mechanic at all, But look, like, the enemy's not even notified of that they're getting pinged right now, right? They have no clue, and because you have this info, Pengu is a former pro player, so he's obviously calling out very properly, but a lot of people nowadays just hit a ping and then don't say a word on their microphone, and that's just how it is. This is a clip of Macy J trying to open a wall with his diamond/champion level rank teammates back in the day. So if you don't know what bandit tricking is, it is the act of basically you electrify a reinforced wall with bandit, right? Bandit can proceed to basically take off and put back on his bandit charges, such that even if you bring utility to take off those bandits, he can re-electrify it fast enough to where the hard breach can't go off and still gets electrified, so you can't breach the wall, right? This should be a very easy 3-2-1 timing for any high level player, where the Cali charge that, you know, Macy J is bringing is meant to break the bandit off the wall. The Ace charge is then supposed to go off, and then the enemy, the team players that Macy J have are supposed to be able to EMP nade through the drone hole to blow up the bandit, or use a Twitch drone to zap off the bandits at the same time to ensure the wall can get open. But that doesn't happen because no one's using their mics.
Can you train?
Can you nade? His teammate throws a nade, gets the stuff off the wall. EMP, Ace misses the Ace charge, goes off, EMP comes out, gets tricked again. It's horrendous. They have a perfect lineup for getting the wall open, but they couldn't get the wall open at all. Right? Because no one's talking. No one has this basic knowledge of the game. Because guess what? Rank 2.0 teammates are horrible. No one wants to use their microphone. The communication is now low-key at an all-time low because of the ping thing. And not only that, they changed this so where in old Siege, everyone had to get 2 reinforcements, right? Everyone had to get 2 reinforcements on the defensive side, right? Right now, anyone can use any amount of the 10 reinforcement maximum pocket that defense has. So now we see a lot of phenomenon where a lot of people in rank just go AFK in the prep phase when they're supposed to be setting up site, and then now they run off, they don't reinforce a single thing, they go insta peek and they die. Right, that is the state of rank right now, especially because of rank 2.0, that you can afford to do that, because if you think you're so much better than the coppers on the enemy team when you're champion, you don't even need to reinforce. You don't even need to play the game. You don't even need to learn to play the game. You can just run in somewhere and get a bunch of kills and not use your microphone, and you could just probably succeed. So with all these problems on the board, how do we fix this error? How do we fix the TDM meta? Because in my opinion, I think Macy J is correct. In ranked, it's a shit show. It's like no one knows what they're doing. It's absolutely abhorrent. You saw the clips I saw earlier. Everyone's only good at running around and killing people, and no one can actually open a wall. No one actually burn anything. No one can actually clear or drone for each other or coordinate with each other. Everyone's just trying to run in and die. I actually think there's one really simple solution that would fix this entire TDM meta thing, and I don't think anyone's gonna like it. Here's the thing with sound in Siege right now. It works differently from a game like CSGO. Right now, events like this, like a Ashe running up a staircase through a barbed wire into glass, running through, can often be silent, actually. None of these guys know where he is. Granted, he's probably playing against people that are paraplegic and, probably don't have eyes or ears or anything. But for the most part, sound in Siege is so inconsistent that you're barely able to hear these things happening across the map because of the way the sound system works. It doesn't work like CSGO or Valorant. It works specifically to Siege, and I'll explain to you guys how it works. This is from the recent reveal of the sound rehaul that's going to happen in Siege X, which is still going to work the same, by the way. Sound works via propagation. You see these waves coming out from the point of sound. Sound propagates in Siege, which, how does that work? Sound goes through the shortest path of holes in Siege, right? So if a guy is in this doorway over here, far away, sound will first travel through this doorway, then through this closer doorway to Buck, then to the Buck's ears. So therefore, Buck will not hear the guy if he's in the room over here, straight to Buck. He will hear the guy on this door. That is how sound in Siege works. It is the shortest possible path of traveling sound. For instance, like if the enemy makes a hole, the sound will now travel through the hole. Now, vertical sound is pretty direct and linear, but making holes in walls allows sound to propagate better. Sound bounces, sound travels in this weird path that open areas like bank, for example, like this, are extremely buggy. There's so many areas of maps that aren't just a box that have really ridiculously buggy sound and almost silent sound at times that just break the game, right, in terms of gameplay. There are so many times. Tell me how many times you've been rushed, but you had a barbed wire, that you had traps on a staircase, but they just ran up the staircase silent. Right now, there's a bug right now where a character in the game, Ying, is completely silent. It's in scrims, it's in Pro League, it's in Ranked. There's just one character who every action they do is just entirely quiet. I want you guys to turn up your headphones and listen to this clip. This is from a game called CSGO, which has linear sound. I want you guys to tell me how easy it is to figure out where people are. Pretty clear, right? Pretty clear that that guy was walking to the left. After he kills his first guy, he hears steps in here, right? He kills this guy, then he starts hearing steps walking up this outer path outside this tunnel. You hear that to the left and behind you. That is so ridiculously clear. And in a game like CSGO, sneaking makes you entirely silent. It's not like Siege, where when you crouch, you still slightly shuffle. Sneaking makes you entirely silent because of sound is valued so much. No matter what, if you're not sneaking, everyone on the map will know where you are. And hear me out, I want this done to Siege. I want Siege to have linear sound. Crystal clear sound. Imagine the Ash that wants to run in and peek every single doorway will not be able to do that because dunk, 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 right? You're hearing them walk up the staircase. You're hearing his fat elephant ass walking up a staircase or the other because you're hearing these sounds so clearly directly to you. Now I know what you're thinking, right? Oh my god, see, just, you know, one shot, headshot, wall bang through soft walls. It's gonna be horrible. People are just gonna wall on me all the time. Yes, that is great. That is amazing. You should prioritize playing behind a reinforcement. You should prioritize playing under soft or under hard floor and not above soft floor. You should prioritize not moving at all to when you're trying to play sneaky in a high risk room with soft floors, soft wall bangable floors and ceilings and walls, and you need to be as quiet as possible, move as little as possible in order to stay hidden. Otherwise they'll hear you and go for a wall bang and drone on you and instantly kill you. I think that's how the game should be played. So with all that being said, in my, very polarizing opinion, I think adding perfect CSGO linear sound to Siege would not only solve all the current sound issues in the game, but also completely curb the TDM meta, because people would finally be able to hear dunk, 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 this guy running and sprinting and peeking you, as opposed to being quiet and sneaky and getting the jump on you, or like barbed wire or legion mines or Ella mines or traps, or would finally be able to be consistently heard. Barricades breaking, right? Barricading a door far away, rappelling on a wall right next to you. Just because you don't shoot the glass off the window means you cannot hear a guy literally rappelling fucking rope on the wall, thunk, 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 right next to you, and everything. You cannot hear him, right? So in my opinion, that is the fix to it. I hope you enjoy videos like these. Dapper, make sure you add title cards where it's pertinent. And yeah, if you like videos like these, I would love to keep making them. And then dapper fucking musical intro. Last time, chat, fun fact, last time I put one of these in a video, he literally didn't do it. Like, I literally put this exact title card screen right here, and Dapper just I just straight up had to tell him, yo, did you not see the part where I literally just wrote this on the screen? So yeah, behind the scenes.